Welcome to Capitol Report, a weekly discussion with your elected officials on the issues and concerns that affect you.
Good evening and good to have you with us. The legislature is heading into its spring recess. Lots of activity this past week at the Capitol in Lansing, and we'll talk about that with my guest this week, Representative Bruce Rendon. He is from Lake City, the Republican representing the 103rd District. Welcome, Representative. Good to see you.
Well, it's nice to see you, David. It's always a pleasure to be here.
Going into the two-week recess, the Senate, we'll start with this, did not approve funding to establish a federal-state partnership to run the health care exchange mandated by the Affordable Care Act. I wondered if you could brief us on what the House position was as that was moving through and what impact you think it will have on accessing health care moving forward.
Well, David, the House did pass that over to the Senate, and really it was a fairly divided issue amongst the Republican caucus, I can tell you that, and it ended up being a bipartisan vote to get it to the Senate. The effect that will have, I happen to be one of those that did not support that. Reason being, I think really the matter is a states' rights matter. I'm not sure that our federal government has the funding to even implement the plan or the manpower to do it. And I'm not sure that also, with all the states on board, that they can fund it. I think truly it should be up to the individual states to decide on whether they want to set up a health care exchange or have that issue in front of them.
And yet we hear the figure, too, in the news as we sit down on this Friday afternoon, the day after, in the news that it's still going to cost the state about $8 million to set up what is still the mandated exchange. It just won't be in the partnership with the federal government.
Right. You know, when you're taking federal money, there are strings attached. And again, I'll go back to states' rights. And at what point? We've got a track record. The legislature that I've been a part of the last 2 years and now my second term of not spending money we don't have. And I truly have been listening and working very hard for my district and the citizens of Michigan.
Another issue that ended up in the Senate's hands right before the break, the adoption of a conscientious objector clause to cover providing certain health care services. So I asked the same question as it relates to where the House came and in this role and the state's role in the oversight of Michigan's healthcare industry. Well,
again, we just have to be concerned about what's best for Michigan. And as far as the conscientious objector goes, I'm not sure what direction we should take there. And anything that's tied to the federal mandate, I'm not sure that it's the best thing for our citizens.
There was also a consideration of a proposal, rather, to drop Common Core standards from the state education system. I wonder if you could tell us about those standards and what the possible change could mean for the schools.
Well, really, that's an issue that I think we need to look at our individual districts and know what's best and what the demand is for our students. You take my district and our area, a lot of the situation, I had a conversation this past morning about agriculture, and that we need a curriculum that returns those kids back to their roots. We have a lot of that in our district, and we need curriculums that fit their needs. Not all children are meant to go on to college, but at the same time, we should have options for everyone.
Is this an extension of the debate, even going back to the Granholm administration when new curriculum standards were put in place? And I know that your predecessor in the district, Representative Sheltron, was a big advocate. Representative Joel Johnson has talked a lot about this too, vocational education and taking a look at what has been put in place by the state as requirements. Is that what we're talking about with Common Core, or are we talking about two different sets of regulations or guidelines for the studies?
Well, I do think the issue's been around for a long time, and I think we need to change our Common Core to include all of our children. And at this time, some of those requirements, it is not a necessity in eyes of some of the kids that are there and their parents.
Another issue that came about right at the end of session was funding for emergency harbor dredging. It's now been approved. That bill is on its way to the governor. He had called for $20 million in his budget proposal to cover the projects. How much now is in the bill that you and the Senate have sent on to him for addressing that?
Well, not setting on appropriations, but I believe the figure, ended up 18 million. And it is an issue that really needs to be addressed. I think it's been since 1967 that any dredgings went on, and truly the commerce that we ship through our ports and the fact that our Great Lakes are at a 100-year low. I believe Lake Michigan is down about 5.5 feet, and we can't access our ports, and let alone some of our streams are down to the levels that fish can't even navigate into the stream. So huge issue. The funding has been put in place to take care of this, and we've recently passed the legislation to get it done, and everyone out there seems to be on board. You know, one of our greatest resources we have here in Michigan is our waterways, and also one of our cheapest ways of transporting goods is over the water.
We look at this from a federal lens, too, and the fact that we've covered this a lot with CMU Public Radio News and Michigan's senior senator, Carl Levin. He has been advocating that there is an untapped fund through the Army Corps of Engineers in the neighborhood of about $2 billion that could be advocated. We have learned now, too, that the Senate Environment and Public Works Committee has approved a proposal to bring some of that money, and I don't know how much of that has intersected the debate going on over the funding here, but how will some of those monies perhaps be bridged or joined should that go through, in terms of we at the state level then having access to tap into that?
Well, David, I'm not sure of exactly what form that will take to transcend into what we've appropriated, but it would be very valuable to the cause of the Great Lakes and our ports. So very critical to us that if we can take advantage of those funds, I think it would be very good.
Any discussion of where we would go to find any extra money? The governor's proposal, as we said, was 20. You said you were pegging the figure at about 18 that went through that bill. Should we find that that is not going to get the job done, so to speak, any talk in the debate as it went on as to where we would find the extra money?
Well, when we use the term money, it's a huge debate, and with our situation here in Michigan and where we've been and where we are today, things are a lot better. And the $18 million figure that I used, I could be off on that, but it's somewhere near what the governor proposed. It has been taken priority to get this done, and as far as further funds, with all the debates we have going on, for example, infrastructure, and waterways are affected in our infrastructure, I'm not sure what form that they might take to find extra funds.
And what about the debate that also came up as part of this as to possibly going to the Natural Resources Trust Fund? Some saying that should be accessible to use money from there, opponents saying that was not the original intended purpose. Where are we then coming up with this figure, the 18 to 20, and perhaps other revenues to pay for this? Where is that money coming from?
Well, truly, there has been quite a debate in Lansing about the DNR Trust Fund and how that money is to be used. And per our Constitution, there are stringent regulations on actually how those funds can be used in the trust fund, and the debate will continue. But to open that up, so to speak, or use those funds for other purposes other than what it's stated constitutionally, would take the will of the people to change that. And there should be some consideration, I think, there, but that debate continues. And I think when the budget process is all done, I think we will see a budget that is pretty flat. And those funds, there will have to be some give and take along the line to come up with those dollars.
Given that it would take a change to the Constitution, as you said, but given also the fact that the lakes are at record low levels now, and extending this to look at any other concerns possibly that come up with natural resources or other perhaps related but not specifically spelled out, would it be time, would it be something where those of you in Lansing would send the signal out to the people saying this would be a good thing, let's get the ball rolling, let's try to get a measure through that could at least allow more flexibility in how monies like this are spent?
Well, I do believe there is some appetite for that in Lansing. That to get to the extent of that debate, that really hasn't taken place, but it is talked about. And you know, what was right, say a couple decades ago, is not necessarily so today. And so a lot of different things have to be looked at, and things change, as we've seen with our Great Lakes for the last 13 years in a row. Our lake levels have decreased.
DNR has released a 5-year strategic plan for the state's fisheries. You're vice chair of the House Natural Resources Committee. Any direct oversight or advisement that comes from your committee with the DNR as it relates to this plan, or what can you tell us about some of the points in that plan?
Well, you know, it has been identified that our wildlife and our fisheries, it's one of our greatest assets. And we draw a lot of people, not just our residents, but a lot of people from out of the state to that resource that we have. And I think the conversation about putting monies into those areas is actually good. We will have we will be able to have input on how those funds are directed, and I think there is definitely a backing to do that. So very important to Michigan, a huge part of our economy.
And again, the tie-in to Washington, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service has announced $882.4 million, I wanted to get that figure accurate, in what they call use-generated funding that will be coming to state agencies. For us specifically, $17.2 million for wildlife restoration and $11.5 million for fish restoration. For those that don't track some of these things, who gets that money, and how specifically would money like that be used?
Well, those funds are divvied up to the Department of Natural Resources, but it's all in good, but we have to be careful. When we take federal dollars, there are strings attached. And
as you said before.
As I said before, and we have to be very careful on what we're doing. And I think in this situation, those areas being a huge part of Michigan, and the fact that we're a peninsula, and you can't just drive through Michigan. Again, we need to draw people here, and I think concentrating on those resources is good.
Early on in the legislative term that we're in right now, you were working on a measure to get constitutional protection for hunting and fishing. Did that work get done, or where do we stand in the progress of it?
That is House Concurrent Resolution K, and I'm asking that hunting and fishing and trapping become one of our constitutional rights here in the state of Michigan. That no matter that the state always provides that it is our right to hunt, fish, and trap. And where that is something that I've brought back up, and we are going to pursue this very hard. It's something that we need to pass both chambers by 2/3 of a vote, and then it would go to the public for their passage. And timing is everything. So we want to make sure that the timing's right to get that on the ballot and see that to culmination, that it is our God-given right to hunt, fish, and trap.
Now, you say that bringing it back up, was this, you had pursued this in the prior term?
Yes, last term I did pursue that, and we just really didn't get the opportunity to get to it. And truly, it's probably a good thing, because as everyone knows, we had 6 different proposals out there for the public to vote on. And so this needs special attention in the respect that I think overwhelmingly the citizens of Michigan would support this resolution.
Well, when you talk about timing, I mean, all of those went down, all 6 did go down to defeat, and there's been, of course, lots of talk since then as to why. Was it the nature of just being anti-change, or was it the nature of the measures that were being proposed? So a measure like this then in a different climate, a 2014 ballot or the like, when something like this might come up, where do you think the mood of the people might be?
Well, I think possibly, you know, an off-election year might be the time to bring it up. You know, regardless of where you're at on any particular proposal, I think sometimes when we get a large volume of proposals like we experienced this last time, people are confused, and I think you have a tendency, we have a lot of informed people, but I think you have a tendency just, things have been all right, so I'm just going to say no.
Yeah, 6 was unprecedented really for our state.
Yeah.
California, it's
right.
commonplace and probably half or a third of what they might see. But
so that's what I meant by timing. It needs to be something that truly, it's one of our rights here in this great country of ours, and especially here in Michigan.
Lots of folks with interest in agriculture came to the Capitol for an Ag Day. You serve on the House Agriculture Committee. What can you tell us about who was there and some of the issues that came out of those meetings?
Well, you know, here in Michigan, we produce and grow over 200 products. We're a huge industry, employ 1 million people related to the industry. We're at like a $95 billion industry in Michigan. And most of the commodity peoples were there, all the way from fruit growers to you name it. We're in Lansing, and we have a governor that is very responsive and respectful of our second largest industry here in the state. And I can tell you that the technology that has come to agriculture is unreal. It's the word ag can carry a stigma at times, but truly I've went to several different types of processing plants, and there are jobs available all the way from high-tech jobs to labor jobs. It's all there, and actually those jobs aren't always being fulfilled. Even on the farm and out in the fields, we have equipment that's $500,000 equipment that's run with GPS, and those jobs, to have somebody technically savvy to correct an error if it occurs, is bringing good wages. So anyways, really I think there was a huge cross-section this week in Lansing of what we do here in Michigan, and we are a huge state. And I've been telling people, sky is the limit. Truly is something that's been recognized that I know in some of the past visits by our governor to Asia, remarks have been made of we would buy every blueberry you could produce, or things like that. It's just wide open for us here in Michigan.
For the Ag Committee itself, then, any other business that got done before the break, or is on the agenda that you can look ahead to when the recess ends?
Well, we've been dealing with a lot of different issues. You know, the last session, we were able to get the MIPSER's program in operation. That's the Michigan Agricultural Assurance, Environmental Assurance Program. And we're asking that, we're hoping to get 5,000 farms on that pro certification by the year 2015. And we're well on our way in doing that. And actually, in my district, we have the first MEAP insured school. And I was there this morning. Northern Michigan Christmas is MEAP verified, have their sign up, and we hope to do a tour there and see what they're doing.
Same question would come then to your position with the Tourism Committee of work that either was done or is on the agenda. And I guess looking a little bit broader at the issue of coming out of the winter season where we had a lot more snow, a lot more of a typical Michigan winter, what's some of the early take on how the season did for our businesses?
Well, Dave, that's a great question. And I have, of course, my district, being in north central Michigan, is packed with a lot of opportunity for winter sports and that kind of thing. And ski resorts, restaurants, the snowmobile folks, it's been a great winter. And all the information I've gotten has been very positive, for all the way from the retail stores in the northern Michigan communities. It's been a great winter, and we're very thankful for that, because we've had some winters in the past that have not really helped us, but this winter has been very good.
Good to see that those tourism numbers are helping then in our areas. The old joke then that we have the season of winter and we have the season of road construction. You and your colleague Senator Darwin Boer locked up over $375,000 in grant funding from MDOT for work in a pair of townships addressing some needs on some county roads. Tell us about that project.
Well, you know, it's hard to go and ask for something specific when we've got the whole problem throughout the state for our roads. But we were able to seal the deal on those dollars and help those townships. So I was very proud of that, to work with Senator Boer and get that done. And we have some more targeted to try and accomplish. I will tell you that I have met with all my road managers of the 5 counties I represent, and our road commissions are run very efficiently, and they stretch our dollars that were allotted very well.
How is the proposal playing? We haven't heard as much of the debate in the past couple of weeks. Somewhat of the initial reactions died down to the governor's proposal to perhaps raise gas taxes or the vehicle registration fees to pay. What are people telling you? What are the road managers saying in your district about that proposal as we get closer to, obviously, the road construction?
Well, one thing I've been telling my constituents is that you can count on a balanced budget by the first week of June. I feel that will happen. Whether it includes road funding or not, I'm not sure. But if the issue is going to get done, it will get done with this legislature. We have a track record of taking the tough votes and making tough decisions and doing what's right for the state of Michigan. I've had one town hall already with one of my counties. We've got 2 more scheduled to talk on road funding. And I met with a couple companies this morning, and one company spends $25,000 a month on fuel, and the other one spends about $50,000 a month on fuel. So they're, of course, concerned and talking about it. The public has said we recognize the problem. They want to make sure that our belts are as tight as they can be in Lansing before we go to them. How we get this revenue, believe me, there are many, many options out there, and no deals have been struck or is still open. I have a tendency myself to, I want to see whatever we do, first of all, earmarked for roads and bridges and as fair as it can be to everyone. So that's where it's at. It is still, it's not soup yet, as we would say in Lansing.
Well, in our last half minute then, in a sense, wrapping up, especially heading into the recess, and you pointed to the goal for the balanced budget, how progress well on track then? Some appropriation measures have been taken care of, others moving along at a pace that you think the work will be done?
Yes, I do. I know some of the subcommittees in the House have submitted their budgets, and I firmly believe we will have our proposal as far as the budget goes in the House done here in plenty of time. And of course, it will go through the process. The Senate will submit theirs, and who knows where it will end up. I have a feeling that we're maybe going to see more of a flat budget than an increase. So we'll just see where we're at. A lot depends on it. We need to see where the revenue stream is and the figures that you project, how revenue is coming in compared to that. And so I'm pretty hopeful that some of these things, as a dredging and those fundings, we will be able to get done and still add money to our savings account, the rainy day fund. When I took office, it was $2 million, enough to sustain the state for 32 minutes. Today, we're over $505 million.
Well, we'll hit the pause button there with those things that have been done and the work then that lies ahead when the recess is done. And I want to thank you very much for taking the time to stop by.
Well, thank you, David. I appreciate it very much.
Appreciate your time and attention as always, too. Remember, our programs are repeated into our early Wednesday mornings, the overnight service here at CMU Public TV. Later, of course, posting this and all of our programs to our website as well. Thanks to our crew for putting all of this together today. I'm David Nicholas. Thanks for all of us here at Capitol Report. We'll talk again.
You've been watching Capitol Report. Join us again as your elected officials speak to your concerns on current issues.